Hello and welcome to this episode of the Adventures of the Windswift. Thank you for joining us. Now, last week, our wonderful crew had some very interesting negotiations. And to tell us more, Dice of Destiny says it's number 3, and that is Jorik. Tobias, why don't you take us off? What happened last week?
Well, I see I'm back in the favor of the Dice of Destiny.
That's a fickle dice.
Yes. Yes, what happened last time? Well, we came back from the Dra Republic finding that our ship had a hole blown into it and that Lieutenant Jasanitai had apprehended the spy. So we went right on that, tired, dirty, bloody, some of us. But we went right on to investigate all of this, which involved interrogating the crew, talking to the injured, interrogating the prisoner, and also trying to solve the tiny little issue of our ship sinking. So we left the harbor in order to get out on sea so we could lift the ship out of the water so it wouldn't sink. Adrusai and Saket helped with repairing the ship as best as they could, while Jorik and Blackston interrogated the prisoner. And Con tried to check so that everyone was alive and not dying. And then he went to sleep because the good doctor needed his beauty sleep. Well, while out on water, we realized we were being followed by a Sagetti ship. So we had that little problem. We can't get out of the water as long as we're being observed, so we're still sinking. What are we going to do? Then actually they fixed the ship, so we're not sinking anymore. But we still had the problem with the Sagetti ship following us. So we had to check what they wanted with a lot of flag waving later. We understood that the spy we had on board was very, very interesting to the Sagetti Empire. And the Eye of the Pharos was the name of the catamaran-type ship following us. So me and Blackston went over there to have a little chat with them and see what we could do. They wanted the prisoner. We said no, and we went home again. Not really. The deal was that we'll keep him within the order so that no information about the order or the Sagetti Empire would leak out to anyone else. We'll handle it. Did I forget anything? Yes, I forgot Adrusai diving into the book again.
It's only like the third time I've gotten to do it.
Yes, and this time you discovered some ancient, like 16,000-year-old empire that was before time, basically, and they were super, 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 super magically powerful and tried to take over the world. And I think the rest you'll have to tell us in-game. I think that's everything. Did I forget anything?
That's it.
Yeah, just the deal, but whatever, that's details.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So that's a pretty comprehensive summation thereof. So Jorik and Blackston, you return to the Windswift, and the Eye of Horus ship drifts ever further away until eventually they're no longer visible, at which point Lieutenant Tai raises the ship up into the air, and that insatiable rocking.
So here's actually a question about this. To do the repairs, even though they're just patchwork repairs, obviously, right? Do we actually need to lift out of the water?
So there won't be patchwork. Once the ship is out of the water, they can actually cut out that section of hull and literally rebuild it in flight.
Because obviously maybe this is mostly between the two elves and me right now to decide.
Right.
Because the others are sleeping.
Correct.
But I actually plan to hold my word and wait here for him to return and tell him if this is like, if my...
if it wasn't clear before, no, he realized that there's no ways that will happen. So he realized that you had won the game. That's why he said, make sure that there's no ways that this guy talks to the Great Empire.
Okay, so then there was a misunderstanding because I thought you would be coming back.
Yes. No,
that's actually what I thought. All right. So then, it's pretty clear what I want to do with him once we're done.
All right.
Wanting to.
So, yes. Do you get some rest at all?
I'm tired. Yeah. Okay. So basically, then, is Saket running around the ship still?
No,
so
I
Kit is in
don't.
a cheese
Just in a happy place.
All right. So yeah, like I would also wanting to sleep some. I don't know if Yorick kind of had like a good meditation on his way up.
I did.
All right, so you're
I
good
can see to the ship while you sleep. It's fine.
All right, then yeah, that's fine. Then okay, then my questions and so.
All right, so the ship does lift off. It doesn't have to continue on its journey. There is no destination, as a matter of fact. It's just away and up. So,
We only really need to get out of the water so they can repair it.
I mean, we still have Jazadari thing. We will need to.
Yes.
Correct.
But that's the play is tomorrow night, I believe.
No, the play has already happened by now.
Yeah.
What? Oh, I thought it was another day.
No. It has already been a full almost 2 days now. Because it was
All right.
6-hour trip up and a full day. Sorry, a full day.
One day.
Yeah,
Like basically the day when we wake up, it's the day. At the end, it was basically in this evening it happened.
Correct.
Fair enough.
So, yes, the night passes uneventfully. The crew, Jorik, you are pleased to notice, although perhaps it didn't work so well, but the crew are much, much better at moving around the ship and patrolling it. Their duties are a little bit more robust. They've got shorter shifts, but they change more frequently. And, yes, it certainly looks as if they've been drilled into a very good routine whereby instead of walking from pillar to post and then back to pillar and then back to post, sometimes they walk pillar to post and then they continue further and then they come back. It's a almost random pattern, so there's no real way to get a sense of timing of the movement either.
Very good.
This boat is so small.
Right?
Yeah.
It really
As
is.
long as people are getting enough sleep and rest, I'm fine with it.
Right, absolutely. So when the sun finally rises, you at some point, I assume, will have also slunk off to your cabin. There's no need to stay away. You realize that there's altitude. There's nothing really that's going to threaten you out here. And there are people on watch who don't appear to have been drugged, to have been lost in the amours of a newfound companion. And so, yes, sun first
Wake up,
open.
33 nymphs.
Right. Yes, so the sun eventually rises and life aboard the ship resumes to normal, except for the burning smell of porridge that permeates the entire ship. And hoping that is perhaps something that has been rectified. When you arrive at breakfast, the blackened, lumpy result is the best that Mios could handle. It appears that his attempt to cook porridge has rendered him wearing most of it, as well as a large amount being spilled all over the kitchen, or the galley anyway. But yes, there is a sort of a blackened porridge. There is half toasted bread in the sconces, and yes.
It's great for morale.
Yeah. Yes. You see crew sort of eagerly shuffling into the galley to grab a plate full of, well, today I'm going to have fruit. I'm going to
Full of stuff.
Yes, so once they see the stuff, they then quickly move on and grab a fruit and go about their business.
As captains in our captain's stuff, do we have such a thing as personnel files on the crew?
Not really. You probably have well, this was before Adrasite joined, so there might have been a note that was written down.
I haven't had time.
Right. So there would have been a note written in the ship's log as to the individuals when they were brought aboard. Most of the crew will be supplied by the order, unless they've been brought on specifically by the captain. So Mios, for example, would have been entered into the ship's log. The rest would have been part of the ship's repertoire when you guys arrived.
Right.
Part of the inventory.
Right.
And still we're missing a gunner.
Lily is the newest member anyway, right? Like Lily and then Mios before.
And then my only other question is this mystical plant I was given by the Durahag.
Dew of the desert.
If I could get a refresher on how that works again. So I collect the dew and use it to make a standard healing potion.
Correct.
What's like cure wounds?
Basically harvest it in the morning, right?
Correct. As the sun rises, if the plant is exposed to the first rays of the sunlight, it will shed a single tear, a dewdrop of elixir, which is the equivalent of I think we said it was a cure moderate. It was quite a potent cure.
Cure moderate. Okay.
44 plus 4, isn't that, I think?
Yeah, that was right. 44 plus... Was it 44 plus 4? Maybe.
The moderate, I think it is.
In which case, immediately upon rising at sunrise, I, after pondering and mourning the lack of decent personnel records aboard, I swing myself out of bed and arrange the plant in its housing, set it up so that it sits on next to the window in the infirmary, in a stable place where it can collect the sunlight.
Right, absolutely.
And sort of set about some whatever I might need to in terms of bottles and such and extra ingredients to complete the potions themselves. And then I head for the Shrine to the Gods.
Right. Okay, absolutely. You get to the shrine, not a problem.
There I spend some time, light some candles, burn some incense in front of the figure of Nur or whatever, however it's set up in there.
Right.
Specifically talking to Nur and just sort of contemplating the challenges of fighting for the continuation of life in an objective manner when my position is often calling us into a direct conflict.
Right.
Sort of, I know I don't really talk to you very often, but, well, it's getting rather tough these days.
All right.
Sorry I haven't called.
What specific question do you have for Nerd? Do you have a specific question?
More a question of a balance of duty versus higher calling and you know, the fact that I'm a doctor and an agent of the Histarian. I am having a lot of trouble with sort of the executing people for just all sorts of things kind of aspect of things. It was academic in the academy. Now it's real, and you know, there's the potential that the cook I quite like could end up dead because he's an idiot and did something stupid, and I'm not sure I'm really that comfortable with that idea. And not just him specifically, but extending that to any number of compatriots, crew members who might, through human or Cathar or elven mortal failings, might make a genuine mistake and lose their head for it.
Right. At that exact moment, simply because of the dice that I rolled, but at that exact moment, on the speaker in this little room, you hear Woffin's voice sort of blaring through, and he shouts, "Well, if it's still alive, then bloody well keep it that way." And then someone is shouting back, it's a loaf of bread, sir. What? And then someone realizes that they're shouting into the wrong cork, and then they cork it.
Wrong line.
Wrong line.
Wrong number.
Right?
Oh, God.
Well, that's kind of broken my reverie somewhat. I'm like, well, as I was saying, if you're there listening at all, you know, I kind of feel like I need to not kill things. That's going to be a problem. But
all right, Adressine.
Yeah, okay, I get up and leave.
Adressine?
Yes. I've sort of I've slept quite a bit, and I spent the morning sort of checking my spells and changing the prepared ones around. And I do show up a little late into the mess hall looking for Jorik.
Well, I'm there. Trying to down this horrible porridge ash burn thing.
And I very, very carefully put your folded shirt onto the one that you had gotten a hole in. I put it on the table and said, I wanted to surprise you. I took care of it after you discarded it down in the Drow Kingdoms, and just wanted to get it back to you all.
Well, thank you. I thought that was left down there.
Yeah, I had a bag of clothes anyway, so I figured I might as well stuff this in and get it fixed up for you.
Thank you. You didn't have to.
Yeah, I know. I just, it's a nice shirt.
Yeah, hard to get a hold of too.
Yes.
You don't carry crimson red very much, everywhere.
No, maybe it's a good habit to get, but, well, just let me know if you get holes in anything else. I'd really rather that we don't get in more holes in your clothes, Doric. It was scary enough the first time.
Yes, I was on the receiving end of that, so yes.
Yes, well.
Thank you.
Well, there's this touching moment going on in the...
and Jorik's like,
galley.
What's the angle here?
What do they want?
Yeah.
Then, Saket, what are you doing?
Well, definitely stumbling into the mess hall for food and being incredibly disappointed.
Right.
And then stumbling into the galley and being like, right, fine, just gonna have to do it myself. What can I find in the galley?
The galley has got a vast amount of stores. You can see there's various supplies. You can basically put together almost.
I mean, there's got to be bacon, right?
Cheese bacon.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we did.
They're tormenting me.
We did have Motaro on this ship.
Right.
So of course they're bacon.
Yeah. Okay. So of course,
so
bacon.
You start to whip up this.
Fry the bacon, and I find, I don't know, some eggs and probably some sausage and.
Oh God, you're describing a meal that I haven't had in 6 months. Shut up, or I'm going to kill you. All right.
Sorry, I had it yesterday morning.
It crashes! It crashes!
Lightning strikes you dead.
Yes.
The gods are displeased with you.
And then I find some potato and I start shredding that and making a hash brown with some
wow.
onion.
Okay, lovely. All right, so you taking over from Mios, absolutely. Blackston, you waken to this wonderful aroma that's now replaced the burnt porridge scent.
Yeah. After eating something
decent,
which could be most aptly decent, I thought it would be described as bleh.
Oh no! Well, are you waiting for Saket's food, or are you waiting for?
No, I wouldn't be waiting.
Mine has black pudding in it too.
I would eat the bleh, and then I would get on. Basically, it was kind of mending the clothes, cleaning the sword, sharpening it, kind of maintenance.
Right.
Duty, doing my morning prayers and ceremony and whatnot. Getting basically ready for when every captain is ready to get them together in the
war room,
old trusty conference room.
All right.
And basically, and also I posted the Hill Path Potion things in the chat, so you can take a look at it.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
How am I doing, by the way? Sorry. How am I doing? Am I still on 8 Constitution?
At the moment, yes.
Oh.
And I need to find a way to get that back. It's not too difficult. I think Con might be able to help you.
Dying.
No, I'm gonna.
So yes, it's not difficult. The 5 of you are after your morning ablutions and mastications and ruminations and every other Asian that there is, find yourselves in the war room.
Yes, after the shrine, I pass by the officers' mess, fill a cup full of nice thick black Java, and then head for the officers' ready room.
Right. Yeah. So you were all quite happy while sitting around the cartography boards in the briefing room.
Probably not too much longer.
Eating grape.
Right. So when we gathered, I would then kind of explain the situation, basically saying we met yesterday with the ship, or the captain of the ship that was following us. As you might have noticed, we are in the air right now as repairs are on their way, I assume, at this point. So we basically woke up to like hammering or whatnot.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And to no surprise, they wanted our stowaway because he was spying on them. They didn't share with us exactly what he was after, presumably diplomatic, military information, and maybe even information about the security of higher officers of the Sajet Empire. And with that, I would actually look at Saket, kind of to gauge her kind of reaction to that.
It's a cat.
It's a cat, right?
What do you want me to do about it? It's nothing to do with me.
We said that we couldn't hand over the prisoner because he is a spy after all and has been set foot on our vessel, so he might know secrets that are not available for us to share.
Well, they wouldn't have bought it, but yeah, okay, that's fine.
Well, I, however, did promise them that he would not leave the confines of the order and be able to share any information with outside sources. And that is a word that I would feel very uncomfortable breaking.
No, that's fair.
Because that seems wrong in the first place. And with that, I would get into the information. I don't know how well it was spread right now, but who exactly we're having. Like the son of basically the ambassador. They kind of helped us before.
If you propose not to set him free again or to reunite him with his father as his father will expect, and no doubt we will be hearing from his father before too long, then what do you propose?
We didn't destroy those stones, though, did we?
No, we didn't.
We could call him and ask him what the crap he actually thought about doing here.
So here's what I propose. We kill him. We give him the option to give us information that needs to be shared, and we then can decide if we want to do this or not.
I'm going to have to officially object to that course of action.
I think we might be heading down a dangerous line if we kill him.
And we don't try to get hold of Collier before we do this. Because if we do so before and tell him that we have it on board, the situation gets much more complicated than if we just found a spy on board and disposed of him.
True, but whether or not we admit it, we do know that the situation is more complicated. And if we do want Collier to actually tell us what's going on, having his son still alive could be a very powerful leverage.
Targeting tool?
That might be true, but he is a spy. He is on our board.
Is he, though? I mean...
He is on board right now.
He is on board, but
if
he's telling the truth, he didn't actually come here to spy on us.
Spy. Do you believe him to tell the truth?
Yes, and there's also the thing of Hurricane being drugged. We don't know what Hurricane told him. There is no way of knowing that. Even Hurricane might not know.
You know, I'm not saying let him go. I'm just saying...
Yeah, our options is to keep him indefinitely or kill him. We cannot let him go.
And if we keep him indefinitely, then he will learn more. The risk of him learning more is there.
Sooner or later, we're going to have to face the ambassador and the weight of the Great Empire behind him. A technologically advanced nation.
Highly aggressive.
Highly aggressive.
Well,
might I say technology that we don't actually understand.
If I may make a suggestion, if this is the first ambassador the Great has sent out for a while, why can't his son be the first addition to the order from the Great?
Well, we already have Grace.
You want really to send a spy that is a known spy into our order who tells us...
I'm saying we can't let him go. And I'm saying that if we keep him at the order headquarters, they can certainly keep track of him there.
I rather suspect the order would put him to his...
What were the Sajetti proposing?
Once we hand them over.
That we hand him over to him. They extract information, and you know how they extract information.
So we're talking about a decade.
Decades, was it?
Yes, decades.
And then dispose of him. So at least what we did here, we gave him an opportunity to close this chapter.
Look at it this way. I think the Great Empire is probably the single greatest threat to the peace and stability of the world. fairly convinced that at some point in the not too distant future, they'll start invading their neighbors and such like.
So then my question would be, can we ethically allow them to get more information to jumpstart their plans even further and give them an upper hand in something that would then, as you say yourself, be a threat for all civilization, even though this is not entirely our...
I agree. And if this were just some regular Wraith intelligence operative, I would be less cautious. However, what we're dealing with here is something of an explosive situation. If we summarily execute the son of a high-ranking Wraith official, the consequences are significant.
So we should just give him back to the Sajeti.
I say we hand him over to our...
And they will take a long time to extract the information they need. And we will build a better relationship with the Sajeti Empire.
But we don't want the Sajeti Empire to know what this
we hand
Wraith knows now.
the Wraith over to our own superiors and let them decide.
I mean, we can't let him leave the Order either way, both because of the promise to the Sajeti and the fact that he now knows things that he shouldn't know.
There is one more thing to think about here. He said himself, in 3 days, his father will contact us. If we wait 3 days, we need to know what we're going to tell him, and we also need to face the situation that he might attack us to bring his son free. He is maybe a cold-hearted bastard, but this pup is still his son.
That, and no doubt whatever his son's carrying by way of information is of significant value to the Empire. Otherwise, they wouldn't go to this convoluted, difficult...
Could we make sure that within 3 days the son is no longer aboard our ship, but in the hands of the Order? Because then he has no idea where he is, and he has no reason to attack the Windswift. I mean, considering...
He assumes he's here.
I'm sorry?
He still assumes he's with us.
Yes.
Even if we say we don't have him, he might not believe us.
It's
We
true.
have to assume either way that we're going to be visited by Wraith.
Unless we
So
show
what I propose is
them
only...
empty.
So what I propose is only to finish this before it becomes an even bigger problem.
Yes, and the only option I'm uncomfortable with that is not involved killing him is handing him over to the Order. He cannot be left outside the Order in any way, shape,
Agreed.
or form.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if we end up having to kill him, we'll kill him. That's perfectly fine by me. But in the end, I'd rather not immediately piss off the ambassador without speaking to him first by murdering his son.
All right, so we have 3 options here. We have trying to take him to the Order, killing him right here and now, and the third one is talking with the ambassador first. Those are the 3 options that I see?
I don't see why we should speak to the ambassador first. And the ambassador has already betrayed us by building the secret compartment. So,
Okay, so then
it's not like he's exactly a friend.
So then it's only the 2 options then. Then we might as well vote on it to see where we stand.
Very well.
I'm fine with that.
All right. So who's in favor of killing him right here now? And I would then kind of lift my hand. So am I the only one?
Yes.
I'm halfway there, but turning him over to the Order seems to be the more humane
More
choice.
investigation.
Well, we can always kill him later.
Anyway,
So
it's
how
an
long-
academic question right now. Can we get to the Order headquarters and deliver him before
The 3 days are over?
the 3 days
Or
are
the 2
over?
days at this
Range of
point.
Takatumen, there's an Order HQ there, is there not?
We are not bringing him back to
No, we cannot bring him back onto the jet land. That wouldn't work.
No, I suppose not.
Well, what about these
Not the map.
what about these drow teleportation devices?
That
We've
doesn't
certainly
matter.
cut it.
Then we still have
We still need to go through that. They
Yeah.
won't. They made it very clear that we will be watched once we enter the Jet Empire again.
Oh, yes.
Mm,
They're not happy that we're keeping him.
no.
So really, we could go either to Drakenmoor. Would there be anything in Drakenmoor?
No.
No. Okay.
So we have like where we usually come from, right? At the edge of basically at the edge between the Sajet Empire and the Dwarven Empire. That's where
We're a long way from anywhere out here.
Correct.
So it will take us longer than 2 days then to get to any kind of place where we could.
What about Chungdar? Is there anywhere in Chungdar?
That's likely where the Great is hanging out, though, because that was where you met him, isn't it?
Yeah.
There is one city which you're over there. If you pushed it, you could get to Naxa, which is in the upper quadrant of the map for those that have got it, above the city of Sanctuary, the island of Sanctuary. There's a little city called Naxa, right up in the north near the Orc Hordes. As it's the westernmost extreme city.
Goodness, that's far away. Yeah.
Well, remember, you're at the base. You're
Yeah,
it's a globe, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a globe.
So we just make
Not-
basically
we're
we
not
just
on
go
a
up
planet.
up the globe mostly.
Correct.
Okay, so then that's the only thing we could feasibly arrive within 2 days.
Correct.
Okay.
Let's go there.
The place where we wanted to go anyway to bring the book is, because that's where we wanted to go, right? We wanted to get the book to the order. That was our main goal. And the Jazidari thing, which is, I guess, out of the question right now, which is, I feel very uncomfortable with, but...
Yes, it's just that we don't have the time.
Well, we could probably get down to the...
Wait, could we not ask her to come for a meeting with Blackstone to tie up some loose ends of a trade deal above ground somewhere? Could we not get her to meet us in Sanctuary?
We can try.
Well, Sanctuary as an island is off limits.
Yeah, we're not getting in there.
All right, the little island.
Well,
yeah. to
enough
the
being
north.
said, I could send her a message and ask her, but why? What do you exactly want me to tell her? Like, I'm not going to lure her into a trap under false pretense. That's not something I would do.
You could just meet her in Takatumen.
I would.
Yeah. So you can send her a letter then if you want, but I'm not going to sign.
Okay.
So the other way is that we could just send other people there because we cannot handle it.
Right.
That's true. We were supposed to be on holiday after.
Lily, who's got the direct link to the deacon.
Right, so we could just tell him and tell the local. I mean, I could take a look at my notes, but there are other ships that are in Sajet Empire and tell them about the information, or even Drow Empire. They tell them about the information and to investigate upon it. If we just can't handle it, which is, I guess, the opportunity. We're strapped for time here.
Let someone else clean up.
All right, then still the question is open. Where did we want to bring the book? The library headquarters, right? Which is where? I don't know. Like, setting-wise, I don't know.
Where is it?
The headquarters. You wanted to take the book to the headquarters. There's Valenhold, which is the religious headquarters.
Right, but where would we want? Like, where some artifact like this, which isn't necessarily a dragon artifact, right? Because otherwise we would have just given it to the Arc Relica.
Yeah.
Right.
But we wanted to give it to the head scribe or head librarian or however you want to call it. Where is that? Because that's probably where we want to bring it to, right? Or am I wrong here?
I didn't know that the book was being taken to anywhere.
Yeah, no, that's not anything we've really decided.
I think that's
That's not a conversation we've had. I mean, if you want to start talking about the book, we can do that, but...
No. Okay, so I thought we spoke in the Underdark. As a player, honestly, I thought we spoke about the Underdark, that we kind of needed to bring it to the order.
To the order. We did say that, actually.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
So that's why I wanted to bring it to the order, which is, well, it needs to be somewhere, and that's what I thought. Yes. That's what I think the head librarian or whatnot.
Yeah,
right?
No, that makes sense.
So that's why I was my mind was going.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So if you want to take it to the order, then you can take it anywhere, any of the locations.
But we wanted to bring it to somebody who would know what this is, rather than having some schmuck from the Arc Relica.
Then your best bet would then take it to
a different place.
Right.
How long?
And
this would take us how long?
Where?
Rythamweir is right in the center of the Empire of Athene Vasul.
So the elves, the high elves.
The high
Yeah.
elves, correct. They've got
Right.
the oldest libraries. So from where you are now, yes, you almost couldn't get further away from it. It is, whether you
It's
fly
on the other side of the world, yeah.
Sujet,
Where
right
were we
in the middle of
supposed
the
to
map.
meet up with the Arc Relica?
Sorry, where was the?
Where were we supposed to meet up with that Arc Relica within 3 weeks?
You said Quethlin.
Where is
Quethlin.
Quethlin?
Quethlin is on the tip of the Empire of Athane Versul.
So it's on the way.
So that's why we wanted
Yeah.
to go there, because we were heading there anyway. So I think then I mean, we cannot just move here, then there, like making the best Indiana Jones movie out of it with all the right?
No.
So then we just head to Athane Versul, right? I mean, that's where we're going.
Yes, we need to
Yes.
deal with the drow situation first, and we should leave the Graith prisoner over to another ship to bring to the order, right? Because we simply cannot. We do not have time to do everything on our own.
So I'm fine with giving like other. I'm absolutely fine with
We're not going
telling
to-
others to say the Jazidari situation, that we can phone this in. Sorry, we can tell. Yeah, this is like phrasing, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
Right.
we can communicate with Lily to our deacon and tell him about the situation, that we are just strapped for other very important duties right now. Give him the information, give him to relay it, whatnot. But that's fine. But I don't know if it would be a smart idea to let him let the pub out of here, because for one, if he can be tracked at all, his father will go after our brethren then there, and that would be, if there's something that would happen there, I would feel very, very bad about it. For one, I wouldn't want to bring other people in more danger than it need to be, right?
Well,
Right.
looking
Well,
at
when
the-
it comes to the tracking, we do have a handy lead-lined room.
Well, hang on. Looking at the map, our original idea, if we take our prisoner to Naxa and leave it in the more solid custody of an actual facility, it's then a simple case of continuing on.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah,
Yes, it is.
Right, well,
Then it's fine. Then
Very
that's
well.
what we're doing, right? It's easy. Then that's what we're doing.
So
Then-
our route would be Naxa, Ritvandir, and then Quethlin, right?
right, and then 3 weeks, that should be fairly easily to accomplish.
Yes.
Yes, it'll take
Yes.
you about 4 days to Naxa. From Naxa to Rytham Weir will take you about 5 days, and then from Rytham Weir to Quethlin, 4 days easy, 3 days even.
So about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right. Fine. I didn't
I
think we would
do-
be comfortable leaving the Jadzidari situation to someone else, but very well. We can do that.
I think we have much more important things, because I think the book and our current situation with our
Prisoner. Yeah.
About the book, I did have a look at it, and it might indeed be more order-related than we thought.
more what related?
Order-related than we thought.
Oh,
Guy, quick question. What
Yes.
do I actually... Would I possibly know anything else about the Chakwantil Empire?
You can roll a dice. Do you mention that name?
Not before I've had a thought of
Alright.
what I know about it. but
Depending on what you would know about it, you would mention it.
yes,
right?
exactly.
Right, give me a history check.
Yes. Oh, God. That is 15.
15. Never heard of it. 6,000 years ago. That means that time period,
It's forgotten, right?
10,000 years before the start of the 5,000-year dragon rule. So it's so far back in history, whatever scraps of history that might have existed will be locked away in vaults that no one has seen for such a long time. Because I guarantee you that dragons certainly wouldn't have been interested in it. So it's so far back in the past, it would literally be like asking if someone had heard of the civilization that was before the Egyptians in our time period, plus another 10,000.
Yeah.
Further, like another civilization in between.
Exactly.
What was the name of the Neanderthal
Wasn't even
civilization, kind of?
yeah.
Exactly, right? Absolutely.
So yeah, okay. What I say is, oh God. Right. I went in looking for what these stones do, right? Because they're,
That's what we spoke about, yes.
yes, potentially dangerous. I think this is around about the same time as my comprehend languages spell ran out, and I found myself in a space like a jungle, similar to, with a pyramid similar to the one that we saw with the ice elves, although bigger and cruder. And with me there was a type of anthropomorphic lizard, is all I can say, wearing some kind of cleric garb. And he kept hitting me with his staff. It was very rude.
Ah, ritual.
Yes. Well, and he showed me some kind of movement-based magic, which is what I've seen in the book, that the stones are used with a type of dance instead of movements. Instead of somatic and vocal movements, they use dancing. It's a full body magical expression, and it's fascinating. And what he showed me, and then I was pulled out just as I was about to speak to him, but this is easily 10,000 years before the rule of the dragons begun. And
so why would it be auto-related then? So here's a setting question, by the way. We ran into other dragonoid creatures, like a wyvern or whatnot, right? That's something we ran into. So there's certainly dragon-related stuff that isn't dragons, right? So the question then with this lizard man, is there something like this in the world, like lizard people?
Good question.
There absolutely are. There's the
okay, so
correct.
Okay.
So that is actually then a question answered, because that makes setting-wise
Yes.
a few things, right? Okay, so go ahead.
Where are these lizard people?
They belong to the Assis's kingdom. It's a mixture of lizard folk, nomadic tribes, and then the sort of snake people.
Yuan-ti?
Right.
The Yuan-ti.
We have an anchor there.
There is an anchor there, correct.
Yes.
It's also more hostile territory than the Graith territory is, because unless your hands are glowing, they will eat you. They have no to that.
That's fair.
All right, so then the question would still stand. So why do you think this is auto-related, if it is even predating anything?
Because from what I saw, I got, when I was there, it was like some kind of ancestral memory or something when I saw this temple about this, we call the Chakuantil Empire.
So now she said it.
Yeah,
Yes, now I said it.
All right, so anybody who's got history can make a roll. But
I do have history. But it made sense for a noble person.
Natural 20s, people.
It's not my primary.
You said
I rolled
natural
really
20.
well. I rolled
No,
really,
you-
really well. If advantage, I had natural 20, but I still had a 22.
I had an actual 20.
you did? Love
I had a
it.
19. Yeah.
26 anyway.
Oh, God. No.
Wow.
I just chucked the dice and there it is.
So apparently there's a lot of historians on the ship in the guise of
The,
doctors.
the ship of the history books.
I wouldn't necessarily think that my history teachings would have
Right,
included.
would have involved that. No, so
I would be surprised if I actually knew anything about it, to be fair, but there you go. Natural 20.
well, a natural
The
20.
dice has spoken.
You never know, it could be some tidbit somewhere.
Right. So the thing that you know about Chakuantil Con is that you have heard it not as the name of an empire, but there is a plant which is known. It's known as a Chakuantil trap. And what it is it's this very large red plant, which is very beautiful. And it looks as if it contains fresh water. So things go up to drink water from this bulb. But when they drink the water, they realize that the entire bulb is, the water anyway, is a mirage. It's an illusion. And this plant then swallows the entire creature. And it's rumored that it can take anything up to the size of an elephant, the older Chakuantil traps, because these plants grow to massive sizes. Thankfully, there is only...
That's terrifying.
Yes. There is only one place where the Chakuantil traps still grow. And this is on hearsay, of course. But that is in the great Italian forests in the southern parts of the Empire of Athene Vasul on the border with the Assis's kingdom. Now, the Chakuantil plants themselves, this very red plant, aside from being very deadly in terms of being able to consume anything that gets close enough, the red flower itself, the redness, if those petals are taken, they can be taken and ground up and the sap extracted from that red root, which is said to cure any form of madness that one might be afflicted with. So it used to be sought after quite a lot for those sort of maladies, the madness of the mind. The joke, of course, is that you'd have to be mad to go and try and get Chak Quantil trap. And of course, once you've got one, then you wouldn't be mad, so then you wouldn't go and get one. Anyway, that was the great joke of the herbarium conference that you attended last year.
Right. Is it a Chak 22?
That is going to make the rounds this year because one of the herbalists has been thinking for a long time. How can I make you come back? Chak 22, I like that. All right, so yes, absolutely, that's what you remember. Jorik, from what you can gather, Chak Quantil, you remember there was a story once that you read about the children known as the Chaka, which were these lizard folk children who did exactly what their parents were told them to do, and they lived up to be very happy, and they didn't get eaten.
That's a nice children's story.
That is the entire story. That was literally the story of the Chaka. These little lizard folk, these little lizard kids who did exactly what their parents told them, and they lived happily ever after.
That makes sense for my home kingdom, though.
Right, for your origins.
Discipline!
Exactly. So the Chak Quantil, perhaps it could be related. I'm not entirely sure. Yes, these kids that did exactly what they did. You do remember that the book itself had a very specific pictoglyph on it, which looked like a double-headed snake with this rather intricate scale pattern. That was on the cover of the book. You remember it used to scare your sister.
Oh, right. Don't let her touch my books. Okay.
Anyway, what I remember was that 17,000 years ago, this empire was exceptionally magically powerful, extremely, like nothing we've ever seen before. And they were trying to take over the world and did quite well at it. Now, they were defeated ultimately by a coalition of various types of elves. And honestly, all of this just sounded terrifyingly familiar with a sort of scaly draconic species who were trying to take over the world with superior magic powers and then were defeated by a coalition.
So you're proposing to destroy it?
No, I'm not proposing to destroy it. I'm just proposing that this is... I'm thinking that maybe these stones and these stones, for instance, was in the hands of the ice elves because they stole them from the Chak Quantil.
You would see Blackston uncomfortably moving in his chair.
I'm saying that I'm hideously curious. I won't lie here. I am hideously curious about this, and I want to know more. But even I realize that this might be terribly dangerous.
So, I think they can, if you don't want to destroy it, giving it to the Agrelica. And the other captains are fine with this.
Well, it's not directly dragon-related in the way that we're used to. So
then there's only
my plan of delivering it to the Order still stands.
Then there's only the one decision we can make. Find out if it is or not. And bring it to the one place where we know we have the best opportunity to find out, which doesn't change our plans at all.
Not at all.
Yes. But I mean, the things that I was shown by this priest character.
Be careful of things that you are shown.
Yes.
Yes, but the thing is that once I was out of the book, whatever he showed me ceased to function. I'll show you right now what he showed me. And I get up.
And I would stand back and start to draw my sword.
Do you want me to stop? Yes.
All
right. It's just a silly dance.
I
As far
don't
as I'm-
care.
See the
You
dance.
don't. If this is as old and as powerful as you say, I don't even think you should or could or should be allowed to get into this book anymore before we know more. Because if this is dragon related, you don't know what these things can do with your knowledge or even without your knowledge and corrupt you.
No, you're right.
So boring.
Look, as
As your
much as I
doctor.
hate the fact, you are right. And as much as I want to keep looking, I think I shouldn't.
Well, we're all equals here, and we cannot order you not to do it, but we can, I think, advise, and certainly as a doctor and on past experience of your interactions with these artifacts, which have, let's not forget, nearly killed you
Right.
once.
I did come out of the book feeling really, really crummy last night, I have to tell
I
you.
have to say, I mean, I'm still catching up on my Cathar medical history, but you are looking, I think, a little peaky.
Yes, it's the they get a little flat. The fur gets a little flat.
How have you
But
been
I'm not doing great.
All right. So then what we do is follow the plans as we discussed.
Yes.
We bring the book with post haste to the place where we can learn about it, and then our higher ups can make decisions. And if they are fine with it, I just shrug. But until then, I think most caution is advised here.
Can I suggest that we store these things in what is now our fancy lead-lined room?
Maybe after we have dealt with the person that would want to get into this room.
Actually, I have ordered
securely in the brig now?
the
I should
lead
hope.
to be removed because it is impairing our ability to fly.
Right, that's true.
So
Oh, sure.
it is to be removed
But
if it
we
isn't
can-
already.
It's still a very good secret room, though.
It is.
Indeed. All right.
That everyone on the ship knows.
Yes,
Yes.
but other outsiders will, if they don't look for it, then they will find. All right, so I think that's the stuff that I want. Okay, there's one more thing. What to do with our good cook? Yorick, this is kind of your.
I'm sorry, come again?
It's that Yorick, this is kind of your.
What to do with the cook?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't want to lose such a good cook.
Look, we can get another cook. Honestly,
Yeah, we
my
can always get
sympathies to the man. But honestly,
He
I
was
think he should be
stupid.
on ground duties from now on. Maybe go cook for the cadets or something.
Here's the thing. If we follow the book, he cannot be allowed to stay on the ship after this breach of security, and you cannot leave the order. So the option is to kill him in order for him to not spread any information about the order.
I'm sure demotion must be an option.
Yes. The thing is, we can't trust him anymore.
I can't simply kill him.
No.
Good grief.
I wouldn't want that either. I'm looking for options, so bear with me here. I'm just stating what the situation looks like.
I suggest
Can
since we
he be
are
sent
bound-
back to the order for...
Well, we're already
don't
headed
desk.
for.
I shrug and said, like, we're heading to the order anyway.
We're headed to the order to deliver one problematic prisoner. We can offload one problematic crew member as well, with a demotion and recommendation that he is put to work in the nearest convenient kitchen.
And also in a secure place.
Yes. Kept
I
away
feel-
from poisons.
I'm quite sure that Hurricane is punishing himself at least as severely as we are.
I do not care for what he does with himself.
Yes, as much as I sympathize, that's kind of irrelevant. Unfortunately. We
You should pay more attention to the morale of the crew. It is healthy for the operation of the ship.
yes.
But still, next
Sure.
time he should take him to a room, not the ship.
Well,
Yes,
maybe
right.
there is a speech we should hold about security.
I'm sure
Again.
Jarrett can.
I'll deal with that again.
If we've no further business, then I have a couple of conversations I wish to have.
I would just like to have the opinions of each captain, what to do with the cook.
Oh well, you've had mine.
So we can start with you, Con. What is your opinion?
I've just told you. We
Bring him back to the order.
demote him and leave him to work in the kitchens wherever we go next.
Understood. Adrusai?
Same. Go put him in the kitchen somewhere on the ground. I mean, he's a good cook.
Saket, muted by the way.
Sorry. Yeah, I agree. We should just take him and put him in a ground kitchen in one of the Hastari.
Blackston, your opinion?
I think we cannot let such a breach of security slide without any punishment.
Agreed.
While I agree that we should not just kill him on the spot, that might be also bad for morale. I also think that letting it slide might be bad for morale as well. So I agree in the thought that we should. I agree with that we should let him get grounded in a secure location where we could leave him off and get another cook. But I think he should at least get 15 lashes.
Well, small work for me.
For the record, my opinion is that he should actually be put to death, but I will refer to the other captains and agree that ground duty is an option.
You see, let's not forget that when one is dead, one is dead. The punishment is over. They're not suffering. They are on to the next world. What I propose is...
I'm not thinking as a punishment. I'm thinking as a security.
I feel it's redundant, but
Yes.
let us not forget that we are ending a man's future. He will have to live out the rest of his days in failure and ignominy. That is as least as effective.
Yes, and it is his own doing.
Way he can affect no change on the world whatsoever.
Honestly, I mean, lashes or not, being forced to cook for cadets for the rest of his life is probably quite the punishment as well.
I think we're missing the point. I'm not talking about punishment. I'm talking about security here.
I know you're talking about security. And I'm thinking placing him to work in a place where he cannot do that kind of damage.
And I just shrug and say, like, I think it is much more dangerous to not kill the pub than what to do with him about security risks. Sure, he might know more, but he is at least
an order member.
One of us.
Yes, all right. We agree then. That's all I wanted to know.
Very good. Well, if that's everything,
I think in that regard, you will at least still, I think in my opinion, you still have the last word in this circumstance.
Understood, but I still refer to you as well.
Yes, of course, which is appreciated.
Con,
right.
You can speak to people.
Yes.
So I have reports to write.
You're going to write reports, Kit?
Well, I've had a good breakfast. I think I'm going to go out onto the bow to see what I can see.
All right. Jorik?
Blackston, do you have a minute?
Of course.
We are going to be lacking a cook, and while it isn't exactly your business or your duty, thank you, to deal with crew, it's more like our stores. We are not going to need a new cook, and while we are requisitioning a new cook, it would be nice to also request a second gunner. We've been lacking one for a very long time.
Of course.
We need Saket to overview any aerial battle. We can't have her sitting on a ballista.
Yes.
So that would be appreciated if you could handle that.
Absolutely.
Good.
Con, you wanted to speak to people? Am I under...
Oh, no, yeah, I would have just sort of got up from the table and given a nod to everyone and departed to find the people.
He's got
people. Yeah.
So you don't actually want to speak to us? You want?
No.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
After.
All right. Okay, so then Jorik and Blackston, you had your little chat. Blackston, what are you going to do now?
I would actually speak with Jorik and ask him, like, what he thinks, what we should do with the prisoner as of right now. Should we talk to him? Should we give him the information? Should we do whatever? And the other thing is, and that's something we probably should have talked with the group before, what we want to do with the artifacts that we found. How we want to handle that? Just ignore them for now?
The artifacts would be locked away. And
yeah, in a lead kind of lined, like we have lead right around the box or whatever.
Yes, we could do that, yes. And put them in the secret room would be a decent idea because it's off the beaten track. Easy to keep a track of. As far as the prisoner goes, I don't see any reason to have any interaction with him beyond
all right.
feeding.
That's fine with me. So basically waiting in that regard.
Yes.
That's good. Okay. Then, aside from that, I'm just gonna go along with my duties, as in requisition orders. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Kate, you step out onto the deck, and Lieutenant Ty comes over to you. Captain, do we have a direction and heading yet?
Yes. We're going to go.
Yeah.
Oh dear, it was a very long conversation, but I think we're going to go to Ixnava. Nava? No, I can't say that word.
Do you mean Naxa?
Yes, that's it. Naxa. We're going to Naxa.
Are there any special precautions that you'd like us to take, considering that we're going there? Naxa is the prison facility of the Order.
Well, any precautions that you think we should take, obviously we should take.
Absolutely. I'll make sure that happens, Captain. What speed to Naxa?
Fast. Lots and lots. 30 knots. 10 knots? Fast.
You had an education, did you not?
More nuts.
Go.
All the nuts.
Lots and lots.
Very good, Captain. We'll proceed at full speed. I will consult with Captain Con on the best course to take from here, as we'll be crossing the major equator, heading north. All right. I will.
No, you should consult with Adresai. He's the navigator, after all.
Is Adresai the navigator?
Adresai is the navigator. Yes, they are.
So
I'm in the map room.
Oh, I just fly.
Right.
Con is the helmsman.
Right, Lieutenant Ty.
He's the getaway driver.
Right.
Crossing the equator? Excellent. I come out of my floral shirt and shorts.
I will consult with Captain.
So the question, if there's the great equator, is there also a small equator?
Right. Yes. So, all right. So Lieutenant Ty disappears, leaving you, Saket, on deck, and you haven't been on deck for more than, say, a few minutes, when you start to hear giggling coming from the front of the ship. And it's not just one voice. There are about 3 people that are seriously having a lot of fun at the front of the ship.
I go and investigate.
As you do so, you start to become aware of these strands of, they look like strings of pearls, which just sort of wrap around you as the ship is flying through this particularly large cloud. And Mios is at the front, and he's holding up the gnome, Quallen, who's trying to keep his arms out as far as he can.
I'm the king of the world!
Right, well, they're catching these strings on their arms and pulling them off of each other and just giggling away as if there was no tomorrow. You know these to be the sunroot plants. Well, they're called sunroot anyway. They're the roots of the sun. They're completely harmless to ships, but they're a sticky strand of this sort of gossamer substance, which occasionally ships fly through. They're often seen as a treat because you can put them into a jar and then you can have the sort of sickly sweet little bauble every now and again. So they're basically just getting covered in this stuff. Having
sticky.
It's a cloud of cotton candy.
Pretty much, yes. It's a happy.
Awesome.
It's the sun type stuff. All right, Con, you're going for some conversations.
I find Ty.
Lieutenant Ty, yes, she is about to step into the cartography room as you catch her. Yes, sir. What can I do for you?
Oh, Lieutenant Ty. I trust all is in order. You've had orders about our heading?
Yes, sir. We're heading directly to Naxa at full speed.
Jolly good. I was just coming to have a look at the map, actually.
I was about to consult with Captain Adresai as to the approach that we should take to Naxa. If you have an opinion on the matter, sir, I would welcome it.
I don't really know why. Is there anything particularly problematic about it?
Not at all, sir. The only challenge, of course, is whether the volcano that is near the city of Naxa is active or not. but that will only determine once we are within visual range.
I see. Oh, volcano, that could make things rather exciting.
I should hope not, sir.
So you handled the whole spy situation very firmly.
I was informed by some of the captains that I handled it as they would have.
I imagine so.
I've also
Decisive action. It is indeed.
Almost a lie.
We certainly look to our officers for decisive action.
That's very kind of you, sir. Thank you. I didn't expect you to be on that side. I rather expected you to be in the other camp of captains who thought I was perhaps...
How long have you been in the service of the Order, Ty?
I have been on board the Windswift, sir, for 5 years.
And before that?
And before that, I served aboard a non-airship of the Order, sailing
so
ship.
Been an order member all your life, then?
From the moment that I was accepted, yes, sir, at the age of 14.
Where did you grow up?
I'm uncertain as to whether I'm on trial here or not, sir. All of these questions.
It occurred to me, Lieutenant, that we don't really know very much about our officers, and yet or our crew for that matter, and yet we occasionally are to sit in judgment of their actions, with sometimes very little in the way of context.
I would hope that my actions have indicated that I support the Order thoroughly and completely, sir.
Absolutely. Your loyalty is not in any doubt at all.
In which case, I'm from the city of Tull, sir, in the kingdom of Brunei.
Not far from where I grew up.
Is that right, sir?
That's fascinating. Well, it's interesting. The Brunei kingdoms have certainly contributed a significant amount to the Order, haven't they?
I would say that everyone has contributed significantly, sir. The Kingdom of Brunei just happens to have more coastal cities than most other empires, and I suppose the seafaring life just lends itself towards a naval-based organization.
Much like the Graith, I suppose.
I wouldn't know very much about the Graith, sir. Just what we've been told and taught about in the academy. But from my knowledge of geography, I would hazard that they do have a lot of sailors as well.
A formidable navy, I can assure you. I've seen some of that technology firsthand.
Right you are, sir.
Disturbing, in fact. Have you ever had any contact with the Graith before? Has the Graith ever, or your family, have they ever impacted on your life at all?
Not that I'm aware of, sir. The ties have always been fishermen by trade. I was the first to be accepted into the academy, obviously as a subordinate. Probably just didn't have the mental acumen to make it into the officers' ranks, I've always suspected. But not that I'm familiar with, sir. The first Graith that I had actually seen was Ambassador Collier at the Chung facility where we were stationed a few weeks ago. Other than that, I can honestly say I don't think I've ever seen a Graith before.
Yeah, mysterious people.
Yes.
All of a sudden becoming... Let's just say we seem to keep crossing paths with them these days. It's troubling. But, well, I hope you feel that you have everything that you need to continue performing your duties admirably.
I think I do, sir. Although I would be curious, have you decided what you're going to do with Hurricane?
You have some input onto this?
No, merely an observation. Mios has been doubling up as our... and I'm afraid to say I think it's affecting morale, sir.
Well, as first officer, it's best that you're on the next in line to be informed. But yes, we have decided to strip Hurricane of his rank and leave him ashore.
I see, sir. That is very kind, considering what he allowed aboard this vessel. If I might, sir, could I suggest perhaps that Captain Saket be seconded for culinary duties whilst we are journeying to Naxxa?
It did smell rather good when I came out through the mess this morning. Was that Saket?
It was very good, sir, and far better than young Mias is capable of producing.
Yes, I saw the
Grew up
porridge.
in a very poor family, sir.
Well, Saket is a captain. You will have to speak to her about it, I'm afraid. But
I would never say...
I suppose if you told her we all thought her cooking was marvellous, that might help things along.
I understand, sir. Although I'm not entirely sure I'm the best at that kind of approach.
It's probably time you started practicing, because nailing people to the wall is not quite the tone we're trying to set here. Thank you, First Officer.
She nods and steps into the cartography room, which is where Adressai is busy finishing up her notes.
Yes. Well, considering the amount of reports I'm going to have to write about this, I don't think I'm just finishing up.
Probably just getting started.
Yeah.
So you're sitting there, and the next minute, Lieutenant Ty walks in. Are you following, Con?
No, I'm wandering up to see how Hashtahep's doing at the wheel.
Right. Lieutenant Ty walks in, looks at you.
Hello, Lieutenant.
Yes.
Can I help you?
Sorry. Yes, Captain. I had a rather strange run-in. Is Captain Cole right?
Captain Con, I suppose so. Why?
He was just asking rather ordinary questions that I've never been asked before. It was quite disarming. I apologize. To business. We have to set course for Naxxa, I believe, and that requires us to change over at the equator. I was just wondering if you prefer a coastal approach or if you'd rather have us just cross the Daggeras Ocean.
Well, coastal approach would take us first. You mean crossing over towards the Assisi's kingdom and then heading north?
I would have suggested approach along the Sajet Empire past Drakkenmore and then swinging across the straits between Drakkenmore and Sanctuary and then up to Naxxa, as opposed to just going directly from here towards the southern tip of Sanctuary and then across Sanctuary to Naxxa. Coastal will take longer, but it does mean that if we do run into trouble, we are closer to land than if we just try and cross directly over the Daggeras Ocean.
It's true, considering what just happened. It is quite recent memory of having the hull blown apart. But again, I'm not entirely comfortable with skirting the Sajet Empire right now, nor getting too close to Drakkenmore, if I'm perfectly honest with you. No, I'd say probably just fast as we can, just head towards Sanctuary.
Very well, we'll go directly across.
Hang on, I'll get to I'll bring out my sort of navigational tools and start doing the thing on the map and sort of get the exact
right, absolutely
angled,
fantastic,
and whatnot.
Yes, so that's all sorted as you hand over the map. Saket, are you indulging in the sun?
Oh God. Yeah. I laugh at them and then I start showing them how to collect it to make a really big ball of the stuff, and I'm like, but we should really plant some later so we can eat it later. And
right,
we're making do you know the plant Sticky Willy?
Right.
Yeah, like a big ball of.
Right, just having fun. Okay, so that's what you're doing, Jorik.
Jorik doesn't have any duties right now, so he's mostly just
Relaxing.
spending some time on the deck.
All right.
Because it was some time ago that we were actually in the air, so he's basically just enjoying that right now.
You get involved in the sun route fiasco. You can see Saket going around grabbing these sort of strands out of the air. Mios has already thrown up once because he made a ball and then he tried to put the whole thing in his mouth and then realized he couldn't breathe. So are you enjoying the sun route strands?
I'm enjoying watching them. I don't join.
Blackston?
I would be in the mess hall, like where usually like people would hang out if they're not doing anything right now. And so like, so anybody ready for some cards?
Wow, that's an interesting side that we haven't seen before. So then, the next 3 days slip by as the crew of Windswift unwind.
Oh God, thank you.
Just a little bit. There is one question.
We all unwind, Guy, because there is going to be a fierce argument about who does the cooking.
Right. Yeah. So in those 3 days, Lieutenant Ty walks up to you, Captain Saket, and is about to ask you a question. Then she seems to lose her nerve.
Aww.
And then sort of wanders away, having asked you if you want a course correction or some innocuous kind of question. The mess hall has now been manned by Lieutenant Ty and Mios, and the meals are very, very well portioned and very functional. There is nothing exciting about the meals, and it's the same
Squared potatoes.
Right. Everything is just so, and it's just so 3 times. So it's porridge in the morning, then a sort of a meats and
geometric shapes.
Yeah, that's right. And then there is a cooked stew thing, and that's exactly what you get for 3 days running. But it's mitigated by the fact that there's a dessert made out of this sunroot plant that has brought a little bit of sugary spice to life.
I want to sleekly or not use prestidigitation to keep spicing things.
Right.
As
No,
they come out.
Dash out spicing things. The only question that I have is, does the cat go anywhere near the book?
No.
No.
The cat has 18 intelligence. The cat understands that this is fucking dangerous.
So here's one question that I do have, however. Since I am worried about her, maybe wanting to take a look at the book, but also worried about her,
right?
I would actually seek out what the cat is doing, how she's feeling, if she's feeling better. If not, I would take a look into this, if maybe with help from Con as well.
Right. Well, as a matter of fact, over those 3 days, your constitution points are slowly restored.
What I would try, maybe if it would help for future reference, in that I have lesser restoration.
Right.
So if that might solve the ailments or alleviate them or whatnot, that's something that I could offer, like spell-wise, mechanical-wise.
Right.
I don't know if I need to go through the exact workings of what it does.
No, so I'm not worried about the exact workings.
Conditions like paralysis and all that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But when you so at the end of the first day, Adricide definitely looked very, very flat and spent. So you use this
just kind of
yeah, right. So you use this restoration anyway. When you cast it, you get the sense that it's not that she has lost vitality. It's that her vitality is stretched. It's when you reach out to her spirit to restore her, you almost get a sense of her aura, her well-being around herself, to go into an essence of space. But you can see that there's this line of energy, this health energy.
So basically lingering towards the book or whatnot?
directly back towards the book. Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So then,
once I cast it, that band then slowly starts to retreat back into her, bringing her back into.
All right. I would assume Con would be at the same, like with me, with us, basically. When we do it. That makes sense. So what I would then say, once I did my sanctification and like ritual to cast the spell, I would then say, this is problematic. From what I can tell, this book is actually sapping power directly out of your life force. So
that is interesting.
Well, it kind of makes sense too, though. If this book has been as old as you tell me, and obviously there's no reason why I wouldn't believe it, magic artifacts don't just stay magic and artifacty for these amounts of time without some external source.
That's the technical term, by the way.
Yes, again. Look at that.
Are you saying that this thing has been feeding over the millennia?
Well,
maybe a little bit like that stone in the temple.
Perhaps.
Well, I have other books.
That is my suspicion. Maybe you, as a trained arcanist, know more about these things, but that is what it seems to me, because a book this old.
Let me tell you, once we get to that great big library city, I'm going to look into that. I'm going to look into the Chaquintil Empire, and, I'm going to find out what I can about this outside of those pages.
Just maybe there's something that should be, maybe you can put in your notes as well.
Right. Well,
yes. No,
yeah.
Sorry. The rest of the time, Adjust's actually going to spend on deck, sort of relaxing, either reading or doing these little sand sculptures that they do. It's sort of a Zen exercise.
Nice.
I've been working on their background, if you can't tell. Where they have little reed sticks with colored sand, and they sort of very carefully pour it out into these massive, complex patterns. And then the wind shift and the pattern all goes away. And then they get up.
The boat rocks a bit. No!
Yes. No, and then they just calmly get up and they go to another part of the ship and they start over again until that gets washed away. And then they keep doing that, just with this sort of bag of colored sand. And then just keep doing these mandala-like things. So that's what I'm going to do.
Potions from the dew plant.
Yes, you want to turn them
go.
into potion. All right, so I'm going to require you to please give me a medicine check once you have started to harvest it, just to see what you can mix it with.
17.
All right, perfect. So it takes you a bit of a trial and error to try and get this right. You take one drop, you add it to a vial, you add water to it, you sort of stir it around and you take a sip of it, and it just tastes like water. It doesn't feel like it's restoring anything. Day 2, you harvest another bead. This time you mix it with a different unguent. That starts to create something which changes color. And it's only on day 3 that you get your first full healing potion. But you think you realize now that if you take that first drop and you add it to heavily distilled water, then the water becomes effective. But the whole solution is maybe 15 milliliters. It's this small amount of liquid as opposed to the larger potions which you're used to. So you can definitely see the value in it that this plant would have.
Right, so and at the end of that, how many functional potions do I have? 1.
1 at the end of the 3 days, correct.
And what does it do?
Yeah, I posted the link up.
4d4 plus 4.
So I can post it again, depending on which one you want to use, therefore available.
Right. The weather has changed quite significantly. From the ecstatic heat that you had in the Sajet Empire, that dry heat where everything is baked hot. Crossing over the equator.
I mean, like Sweden right now.
Right. Well, pretty much like
Europe.
Northern Hemisphere, right?
Yeah.
So you make your way along and across the Dagorès Ocean, and the temperature starts to drop. And as you get to midday on the second day, the bell at the helm is rung to signify that you're crossing over from the southern hemisphere to the northern hemisphere. You've all done it before. It's nothing special, but it is still rung out of ceremony more than anything else. And in the afternoon, you start to catch glimpses of Sanctuary. Sanctuary is the island of the Druids, and it is well known that the anchors that are on the island are, generally speaking, very well preserved by the Druids. It's rumored that all forms of were creature are welcome on the island. The Druids don't discriminate. But what is absolutely immutable is that no non-Druid is allowed on the island of Sanctuary except at the city of, and I can't see it here, Denethwold. Denethwold is the only part of the island that non-Druids are allowed. But the circle of trees that encircle this entire island are not what you had expected. You had expected to see lush green oak trees that spread out below the ship so far away because you're a mile and a half up.
Well, I would have gone out to have a look as well.
Absolutely. These trees are colossal. They are easily half a mile in height. Just massive colonies of giant oak tree upon giant oak tree spreading out in all different directions, to the point that it's impossible to tell where one tree starts and another one stops, just growing in different directions, all different ways. And as the ship sails over Sanctuary, this explosion of giant red, they look like parrots of some kind, just erupts from the jungle below, to the point that there's so many of them that it looks like there's this red ribbon just waving a salute or an awareness to the Windswift as she sails over above them. It then changes again quite significantly by the dawn of the third day. The sky has gone from a blue sky. It's now turned this horrid grey. And all that you can see around you is mist. You are deep within clouds. And the ship itself, after a few moments, you start to realize it isn't mist. It's the ashfall of an active volcano. Very fine particulates of dust and volcanic ash are settling upon the deck. Lieutenant Ty, of course, immediately starts to order crewmen to sweep the deck so that the ship doesn't become overweighted by the sheer mass of all this ash that's accumulating.
I order the crew to make some sort of arrangements for tying rags or masks or anything over their mouths and noses to avoid ingesting as much of the toxic air and ash as possible.
Excellent.
Doctor's orders.
I'm going to go back into the sort of navigation room and start tracking extremely carefully exactly where we are by sort of time and distance and speed, because since we've lost visual confirmation about where we are. So I'm going to start just keeping extremely close track of where we are.
All right. It is quite difficult to do so. There's nothing with which you can use to navigate with. There's no stars, there's no landmarks.
Well, I know our speed and the heading we were on.
Correct, absolutely. To a large degree.
Is there such a thing as a compass in this world?
There is absolutely a compass.
Oh, well.
So that does certainly help. Lieutenant Tyler,
October.
Right. That you actually take the ship down into the water, as there's less ashfall down at the lower heights, lower altitude. And as the ship descends down, instead of leaving this hellish greyness, you enter into an even worse environment. Lightning storms play across the ashfall above you, creating this static electricity that just plays all over the ceiling of this ash. And the ocean below you is this dark black swell of spiky waves that crash about, stabbing at one another in an attempt to drown each other.
Well, this is a charming place.
I relieve Naxon from the helm.
He is wet, covered in ash, and miserable, as is everybody else who happens to have to go out onto deck.
Bring me some coffee, and then you can take some time.
Yes, sir, I will do that for you, he says as he stiffly walks down to the hatch. Now, the volcano is the only thing that you can see, so navigating becomes a little bit easier as it is this permanent orange glow on the horizon. It's rumored to have never been extinguished and is going to burn until the gods destroy the planet itself. And it allows you to navigate through. The afternoon is spent fighting the ship just above the waves rather than settling into the ocean. It seems impossible. And since Naxa is the prison of the Order, it doesn't make sense that you have to land and sail the ship in. Even if you were to do so, that would be almost impossible with the winds that are just blowing in all different directions. As you get to the coast of Naxa, you realize that it would have been foolhardy to have even tried. Great rocks, all jagged and ripped up from the malice of the ocean, stick out of the waves and threaten to dash any ships that come anywhere near them. Approaching by land is equally difficult as the surrounding territories is all black dolomite, old lava flows and things like that that have all cracked and shattered into different directions. But shining below the base of the volcano is this outpost known as Naxa. It has one mooring tower specifically designed for airships that defies the wind and the weather around it by standing upright 100 foot into the air. And that is to which you must attach your ship if you wish to dock at Naxa. The rest of Naxa itself is a square grey block with battlements all around it and towers that watch over the block itself. This is the ultimate prison as far as the orders are concerned. So, Con, would you give me your very best of piloting? Come in and...
Blue dice. Blue dice.
Royal dice.
The royal dice.
The Englishman rolls the royal die.
Ha, nice. 21.
21.
Ooh.
Winds buffeting from left and right. There's still that slight ash fall, but you bring the ship in. And as you get close to that tower, these massive lights, these arcane lights, shine down onto the ship, almost blinding you for a second because they're so brilliant and they illuminate the entire deck of the ship until as you pull into the side, Mios at the front and Lieutenant Ty at the back throw out the mooring lines and securely tie the ship to the docks. There is a contingent of 12 heavily armed guards who are led by a rather imposing figure, very rotund looking man wearing a high collared coat and holding a very obvious magical staff. At the top of it is this golden, it looks like a dragonfly, and its eyes are made out of this brilliant blue crystal. And he approaches the ship as you come to a stop.
Yep, Jorik is on deck because that's his job.
Right.
I would be with you.
I open the speaking tube. All hands, secure quarters.
I put down the potato dauphinoise with the pancetta I was eating.
Been secretly cooking herself wonderful meals.
He has been.
Traitor! I think we should leave you here too.
I knew I could smell something when I woke up in the
stereotype.
depths of the night.
So here's a small question. We had to inform like a few things to our deacon, right?
Correct.
Like the Jazidari situation.
Correct.
And all these other things. So here my question would be, how would I handle usually like requisition orders, like change of personnel? And
Exactly the same way. Exactly.
so this also goes through the...
Correct.
All right, okay, so then that's something that I would have done.
Absolutely. Would you have informed the prison that you were bringing this Graith spy?
I think we would have, right?
Yes,
Makes sense.
makes sense.
Correct. Correct.
All right.
All right, so everybody eventually assembles up onto to deck to stand in this mucky, muddy rain as this large figure stands there. He steps forward with his hands stretched out. You can see that an old tattoo has been burned into his hand long, long, long ago. And from his various jowls and layers of chin, he looks out at the five of you. Welcome to Naxa Prison.
Thank you. We have a delivery for you.
Yeah, why don't you come inside where it's better, where we can talk?
Yes, Lieutenant Tai, you have the deck.
Thank you, she says from this muffled. The person who's speaking to you starts leading the way back into the tower itself.
I would not be following.
How is the atmosphere out here? Is it still sort of ashfall and darkness and nasty?
It's dark, ashfall, bits of rain make it mudfall more than ashfall. It's just manky. You can see now the way that the entire facility has been designed. There aren't very many open areas. It's all just this heavy slate grey roof that's pitched to make sure stuff rolls down. You can actually see from here several figures in these very bright orange jackets, obviously sweeping this ash stuff off of the roof and into buckets and things as they move around, trying to keep the facility as clean as possible.
I come along as well. I want
Right.
to get into this horrifying prison facility.
Good and everything
A
else.
big coat, just wrapped scarves.
I don't want to
and
be
just
here.
Lovely weather we're having, don't we? Does this happen a lot?
I stopped just short of going off the gangplank and looking at Blackston. You're staying behind?
Yes.
Any particular reason?
Yes. I would want to speak to our once cook, tell him about Herr Karen, to tell him of his new position at this
Understood.
facility.
All right. The ship is yours then.
And I will prepare the prisoner as well.
Thank you. And then I walk off and
All
follow
right.
them.
So the four of you step into this tower, and you realize it's a rather crude elevator. And the 12 men that came with this, obviously the warden, remain behind up on the top of the tower. And this man, you realize he's possibly a half-orc. You're not entirely sure. His skin is too pallid to be a true green-blooded orc, but he's definitely sort of bulky enough that he could be. And he shakes all of your hands as you come onto the elevator. I'm Warden Rowlek. I will be taking care of your two delinquents. I have a few questions to ask of your prisoners, which I trust you will tell me over dinner.
That will be fine.
That would be great. We've had some staple fare the last few days, so we'd absolutely enjoy some new dinner.
The prison gardens are well tended. Some of the inmates have quite a remarkable flair for horticulture.
Really, I imagine the ashes make the soil here very good for that kind of thing as well.
If you've ever attended a state banquet, you will undoubtedly have drunk our wine, which grows in the slopes of the volcano.
I have not, but I'm looking forward to it.
I'm not sure if I want to drink wine that has no sun.
Then you are in for a treat.
Jorg mutters under his breath, leave it to Adrosai to find something positive in every play.
Hey, that's why you like me.
Who is Captain Con?
Yes.
Our doctor would have a word with you, sir, if you have time. We have had a breakout of a rather unusual ailment that's afflicting a certain species within the prison. And our doctor is confused as to a solution.
Who is it afflicting?
I'll let him explain the details. He has more interest than I. You understand, some of the prisoners that are kept here are not kept in solitary confinement. There is a certain commingling that happens, so we don't want the element to spread to others.
It's not anything that could spread through anybody on our ship.
Yes, I rather need to know right now, since you said it's species specific, which species
It only seems to be affecting the gnomish populations.
Well then.
That's problematic.
You don't look
Make sure
like
that they
a
stay on the ship, I suppose.
Mhm.
Well, we're going to have to avoid contact with them until further notice.
Absolutely. I had not wanted to detain you longer than a good meal tonight and perhaps comfortable beds. I had expected departure tomorrow morning.
That would be correct, yes.
Do you have any estimate about how long this eruption is going to last?
This eruption. This isn't an eruption. This is a good day.
Oh, I see.
We're expecting the rains to clear by this afternoon, and perhaps we might even get some dappled light.
Mm.
But I wouldn't hold my breath. We're in the winter season now. That means our only source of real light comes from the volcano. It's only in summer that we sometimes get a clearing, which is when we do most of our growing of the vegetables to feed the population for the rest of the year.
Absolutely fascinating.
It is quite a neatly run facility, if I do say so myself.
Dreadful, if you ask me.
Not as comfortable, perhaps, as a ship, I admit. But we do what we can.
I'm actually extremely curious about the facility here. I would like some kind of tour, or if you have any books on the history of the place or on the volcano, I would love that.
And tell me, how are you fitted for a cook these days?
I must admit, I was rather excited when I heard that you were bringing a member of the Order, a cook, to our facility. He will be kept here, where he cannot allow any of the enemies to do any damage to the Order. But mark my words, if he's a good cook, he will be a happy cook. Our current cook is exemplary, and I cannot fault her. But she is getting old, and replacing her will be a delight for some of the younger staff members who feel that her cooking is a little dated. I'm sure
Perhaps
Captain Bent
Which,
can
for
show
now.
you around the facility later on, Captain Adresai.
Yes, thank you. I would love that very much.
I think that sounds perfectly acceptable. Just what I had in mind, in fact.
I'm pleased to accommodate you.
There's no point in wasting talent if one doesn't have to.
Sometimes dissolution is required, sometimes death, sometimes public flogging. It all depends on the species, really. At least that's what I find. And the elevator slowly is making its way down the tower. Blackston, you are on the ship.
Yes. I would be heading, as I said, first I think I would be going to Herakan.
Right.
And see how he is. Like, is he still injured? Does he have his injuries?
No, he seems fine, and the moment you approach, he stands to attention.
Says Eddie is. Herakan, I have here your new orders. As you might have imagined, your latest escapades have forced our hand here a little bit. We had a discussion among the captains, and we came to the conclusion that you are no longer fit for active duty. The danger is just too high for that. So, we have decided, since we cannot just kick you out of the order, as you might know, and you have quite, and I'm happy to say, and I was of this opinion myself, that you have garnered quite a bit of goodwill, that we found a solution that might be adequate. You will now be able to go along with your work that you've done so admirably for us in the future at this wonderful place that we have now.
lightning outside. The volcano rumbles quietly.
And you will stay into the future in Naxa and take care of the dutiful officers and members of the order here.
I'm very grateful. I did not even expect this. I thought I might even be executed for what I did. I realize now it was very silly, but I really do thank you, Captain. This is a great opportunity for me, and yes, I hate to leave the Windswift, but I also understand. I am very grateful for this.
Nice. And I nod and I say, well, I'm also sad to see you leave. You're quite an excellent cook. But we have duties to attend to, and there is no room for error, I think.
He picks up his few meager belongings and hands you an envelope that's quite full of pages.
All right.
If I could ask one favor, would
Of
you
course.
give this to whomever replaces me? It is the Sajetti recipes that I had collected for Captain Saket.
So beautiful.
Oh,
that
the
goes to
sentient
his
bell.
All right. Yeah, that's outside here. It's
Yeah.
not much I can do about it.
Brilliant.
Oh no, it's perfect.
So
Gotta
I,
do market.
I nod and say, well, she will certainly be thankful for that, for your extra work. I'm sure of it.
He
Um,
starts to leave.
I will hand him his orders and
Yes.
just tell him to basically check in with Chisani before he leaves to get everything in order.
Absolutely. As he gets to the door, he turns. It isn't my place, but what are you going to do with the Graith prisoner?
Indeed, that is not your place. I'm sorry. I cannot tell you.
He then leaves. All right. Then where do you go?
To the great prisoner.
All right. He is in his bunk. He's looking a lot better than when you last saw him. He's no longer damp. He's dry. He's still fairly malnourished, but he's certainly been eating every last scrap of porridge that Mios has been bringing down, which has really helped Mios in terms of cleaning the plates, as the Graith has quite an efficient tongue.
Nice. And I would basically go in and do one last bit of interrogation before I give him over to the authorities, basically.
Right.
So what I say is, as you might have noticed, 3 more days have passed, and we have not heard anything from your father.
You destroyed the communication stones. I'm not surprised that he has not got hold of you.
Well, even if you were on board and everything went to plan, we wouldn't have known about them anyway. But it is nor here nor there. You will be pleased to know that you will not die today.
Today.
Yes. Now, your father and I might have different interpretations of a favor and how they get added to one's tab. But, as I said, we will not give you over to the Sajet because of reasons that are maybe obvious, maybe not, but I do not care to elaborate. However, you will be confined to order. To order. How would you say this?
Facilities?
Facilities, yeah. To order facilities. And if you'd and I can tell you right now, they are used to deal with very dangerous people that for one or another reason are not killed on sight. So that was the reason for my preamble. You will have food, you will have a lot of time, and I offer you one last time, when I meet your father the next time, is there anything you want me to tell him?
I admit, I was hoping my father might rescue me from the vessel, but I realize now that without the stones, he has no way of knowing where I am. I am grateful that you're not going to execute me. No one should look forward to their own death, although I am willing to die for my country, of course. It is not a welcome death. This facility that you are going to incarcerate me into, I understand as well. I will not attempt to escape unless I think there's an opportunity for success. That is the great way. However,
Honest, at least.
if you do see my father, the only thing that I would request that you tell him is that it would be a great opportunity for him to invest in property in the Magnum Gulf.
Give me a second. What was his exact phrasing? Great opportunity to invest
In property in the Magnum Gulf.
Because that might be interesting for a spy, or the exact phrasing, right? That's why I asked.
Right.
That's where the Gam Spire is.
I don't like this.
I'm not saying that I tell his father. I just
No.
I nod and say, very well. And I basically prepare him to
All right. So a few moments later, when Lieutenant Ty comes down, she says, I'm terribly sorry, sir. Are you finished with the prisoner? Only the guards are here to take him in.
Of course.
The one guard steps forward. He says, I'm Captain Benteen, sir. I'm here to take your prisoner, I believe. This is the individual?
This is indeed the individual. And I basically give him the paperwork and make him sign that we kind of gave him over to the player.
You want to accompany us to his cell so that you can see that he's properly interred?
I think that would make sense in his case, yes.
Very well, sir. In which case, you'll come with me. You'll forgive me if I ask you to leave any sharp implements or weaponry that you might have at the door.
Right.
It will be inventoried, of course.
So who was standing guard while I was in here?
The two that were standing guard here, it was...
Doesn't matter. I'll just give it to Jasani. She's there. I know.
Right. Yeah, she is there.
So I basically I unbind the belt with the sheath sword and I give it to her. I give her also the 2 daggers that I have with me, which just leaves me basically with normal clothing. I wouldn't have had any armor on me anyway. So basically,
right, perfect.
Aside from I don't know, like some small metal things that would be on it.
So you start to accompany the guards who lead this Hundkin chained and shackled towards the elevator tower, which will take you down into the prison facility. The 4 of you, yes, Con, you had a question.
I wanted to double check. On our way over here, did we report to our superiors? Are they aware that we're leaving this?
Yes.
They are. I thought so, but I just wanted to double check. So
yeah, I asked them before we went to our...
we reported to the deacon and about what we were doing. Okay, good. Right, fine. So we're going to dinner, I presume.
Well, you're interrupted as the 4 of you are walking down this corridor. The corridors are very oppressive. If you thought outside was bad, inside is worse. They are just these concrete, looks like concrete, but just smooth stone corridors. The lights are underneath or behind this heavy glass plating. So it's this diffuse green light that shines down into these dark corridors. There are no windows whatsoever. So even the dark view that you might have outside is completely obscured. And as you approach a doorway, you have to stop. The warden steps forward. He places his hand on a rune. The rune lights up with magic. He incants something. He holds up his other hand, which has got his order symbol on it, which illuminates. He then steps through whilst holding his hand up and gestures for you to step through. Once the last of you step through, he drops his hand and that portal just closes up again. And you'll go through this 4 or 5 times to get into the actual facility itself. As you step through the last one, this very sickly looking, you realize, goblin comes rushing forward. And Con, you can tell straight away that he is definitely a doctor. You can see he's got bags with pouches of herbs and things left open. There's various sort of implements, a little wooden hammer. But he himself looks rather afflicted by something. There are these open pustules on the side of his face, and his one eye is completely milky solid. The other eye is almost feverish in its nature. And he comes rushing up to the warden and looks at the 4 of you briefly with his one good eye, and then says to the warden, "I think there is something wrong with the gnomes. They're starting to eat each other, sir." And on that note, we'll be back next week.
Great! This is amazing. We're locked inside a prison with zombies.
Help! No zombies.
Or Dark Sun.
God.
Love it.
Oh my god.
Not any zombies. Gnome zombies.
Yeah, go for your knees first.
I should have bought boots!
Anyway, thank you for watching. If you stay with us, we'll do the review shortly as we unpack this particular episode. Quite an interesting episode, actually. All right, Dice of Destiny says number 3. So if I look on my screen, number 3, that's Adversary. We're starting with Adversary. So, yeah, what did you think of the episode? Again, I personally, I'm just going to jump in here. I thought those 2 hours went by fairly quickly.
Yeah, they really did.
There wasn't a lot kind of happening. It was really just
I felt like there was a lot of sort of moving the story forward that happened, as opposed to actually us. It was a lot of us making decisions rather than us versus the world, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Which I really enjoyed as a sort of change of pace, and it made me feel very captainy as well, which is nice. Although I have to tell you, you have no idea how difficult it is for me as a player who is. Like, I, as a player, am extremely lore-focused. I'm extremely, world-building obsessed. I adore this kind of things. And to just go, no, I'm not going to read this book anymore, after that fucking cliffhanger last time. You have no idea! Oh my god, how difficult that was. No. I am certainly hoping to, once we know more about the book and once we feel about what's good about it, to get back to it, because I feel like that's a very interesting storyline for the game to go into. And I definitely want to know, where that goes as a player, but, even just delaying it was really difficult. But, I understood, in character, another character, at some point, my character isn't crazy and my character isn't stupid, and at some point they are going to just go, no, this is dangerous, because they do know where that line is.
Right.
Do they?
And yeah, they do.
They've been hit over the head with it a couple of times. They know where it is now.
Hopefully.
Well, no, I mean, before, there was no real indication that this book was dangerous in that sense. And they looked at it more like a sort of source of knowledge. And as far as they were concerned, the stones were far more dangerous. And I knew that that knowledge was in the book. And I was
knowledge is power, right?
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, they are still on their path, even if they're not as extreme as dragon worshippers would be. But no, I had a lot of fun doing that. And I had a lot of fun just sort of... really going into character this episode, which was a lot of fun.
It certainly feel like that, didn't it? And Saket, how did you feel about this episode?
Well, again, it wasn't like there was lots of action. So
No, you were cooking.
I was cooking. How did that happen?
You did this yourself.
And now I'm going to be straight onto a certain app after this. Like,
Right.
No, I'm lining up a certain pork belly with potato gratin already. So,
Right. So there's
many hours. So.
how to draw
Thanks for
inspiration
that.
from your own situation to make your role playing more
Exploration.
right.
My poor husband is not going to thank you for what's going to happen next.
Garfield moments.
But yeah, it was one of those sort of interesting. It was like one of those episodes in a soap that it like like Jenny was saying, it kind of just moves the story forward, but there's some integral things happening, but nothing big has happened.
Right.
But if you didn't watch the episode, you'd be screwed.
Yes.
So,
Quite a lot of debate at the beginning of the episode, and then quite a lot of touching moments throughout it as well. Now, Jorik, you had a touching moment in terms of being given your shirt back.
Yes, that was a very nice gesture.
Right? That was a lovely gesture. It's kind of like, oh, what? You gave me a shirt back? Oh, nice. Right. So how did you take the episode? I mean,
I loved it. I mean, there wasn't a lot of action, as people have said, but it doesn't always have to be. And this, I felt, was a situation for us to really dig into and explore what our characters would do with some spare time. And not just, I go lounge on a beach. It was like we interacted with each other. We interacted with the crew. I loved Jonas Khan's conversation with Lieutenant Ty. That was great. I liked it because this kind of role playing, it's necessary, but it can get really dreary if that's the only thing that happens. So perfect episode for me. I loved it. Jorik was kind of, he's a bit of a loner. He's not very good with people because being out in the forests and the mountains for 50 years without civilization kind of does that to you.
What?
Yeah. So he didn't really stick around and interact specifically with anyone, but he more stuck to himself. But watching everyone else's interactions and the interactions that Jorik got forced upon him was great. It was really great. So loved it. All of it. Nice cliffhanger at the end again.
Yeah.
Well, I had plenty of time to think of what to do, didn't I? So Blackson, you kind of got everything wrapped up, really, haven't you? To a degree.
Yeah. It was, quite efficient the last 2 weeks, I guess.
Right.
No. I personally, I liked the session as well, although I must say the last week's session I preferred a little bit more because it just gave, for me personally, a little bit more brain food of how everybody's acting differently. I personally enjoyed very much the talk we had on basically making the plans and what to do and where to go and what we wanted to go. I think that is basically hit the essence of what we should trying to do, as in this awkward moment where we are in somewhat of a pseudo-militaristic group with no real leader, which is kind of what?
Yeah.
I think that was pretty well. And we didn't follow up on every detail. I don't think that's always necessary. Like, oh yeah, and I go to the Oracle and I talk about these things and what we already talked about and give this through. And also, and I do this, and then the next day I do this. It's like making it a little bit of a montage. I think it's very, very fitting for these things. And I agree that it gave certainly insights in the different people, what they were doing, cooking for themselves, sticking to themselves, mingling with the group, kind of checking out what actually they got of the dowry with the woman that is now lost to us. All these kinds of things I enjoyed very much. From Blackson's point of view, it's really what you said, like kind of finishing things up. Like Blackstone did really not feel comfortable with the decision we came up with, because that seems such a security risk. Like, I'm really, really with Yorick on that. Like, letting him live just brings us in problematic situations once we actually arrive with them, and then just because the idea was like, well, we had a spy, we killed him, sorry, right? Like, that seemed like a neat thing, but since most of the other people were against it, just go with it, right? And it was not something that, oh, well, just let him live, I'll give him to them, well, right? And my favorite moment of today's session was certainly the discussion between Saket and me, where it was, well, you can just tell her to come, and then under false pretenses. And this was like such a pivotal and interesting character moment for Blackstone, saying like, no, I would not give somebody my word and break it. That's what? Right? And that was really, really interesting. I think that was, like, I like these moments. I like these pivotal kind of decision moments for characters.
Character development moments, more or less. Yeah.
Now,
especially when you realize something about your own character. That's the best part, when you just realize, wow.
Well, yeah, you wouldn't do that.
That's what my character's going to do. And the Doctor, I mean, you pro-lifer here, going, no, I love the prayer to know. I thought that was very nice to go and see Carrot's guidance. You got it in the form of Waff and Jockenstone screaming into the mic.
Yeah, so Connor's still debating whether or not to put any weight in that, but because he is practical in many ways. But yeah, I mean, for him, I mean, the whole prayer thing was sort of served two purposes. One, it is sort of character development for the way Con is, and obviously I wanted to, because religion's kind of been in the background mostly, but Con does actually have a deity that he follows specifically. And also, so it serves that role play character development purpose, but there is sort of a long-term plan for where I see Con going. There is to begin to develop this interaction with that goddess incrementally as time goes forward, as it were. So, you know, occasionally we'll see Con reaching out to Nur, because I have plans related to that down the line.
Right, nice.
But in terms of the session, I thought, you know, it was great because for me, this sort of thing brings life to a game, especially when we're playing a game that people watch. So it's almost like a TV series where characters and, you know, the best stories, if you don't have anything underneath the surface, it very quickly becomes tedious. So you can't just have action and fighting and one-dimensional characters who action and fight their way through everything. There has to be a life lived underneath all of that. And I think we had these last two episodes in particular, we had a good sort of the crew of the Windswift life lived episodes.
Right, absolutely.
As well as individual developments and such. So,
yeah, and it felt good for us too, because we've been in this oppressive Drow Republic for such a long time, having to think about people listening, and it's a sense of freedom for us as players too. I can actually sense this.
Yeah, we're back on home turf now.
Yeah,
we really are.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Con's flying through the sky at the wheel of his ship. He's happy.
Yeah, that's like, I don't care. It's storming mud and volcano. I'm flying my ship, right?
I have to be able to say that I have piloted a ship to dock at Naxa. Now I can.
Absolutely. And
now, that said, I said 2 episodes ago, if you'd have told me that in 2 episodes you're going to be like halfway across the world and not be in the Underdark anymore, and this will all have been wrapped up, I would have gone, no way. That went very fast once we actually got out of the Underdark. And I mean, partly because we left it for other people to wrap up in character, which makes a lot of sense. It's just, it happened a lot faster than I expected that it would.
Right. And that wasn't the original plan from my side either. The original plan was to revisit the Underdark. So that obviously had to change and
I wanted to say goodbye to the lawyer man, but I'm going to send him a letter.
Right, there we go. Well, I think he'll like that. All right, thank you for being on this journey with us. We continue again next week as the adventures of the Windswift move forward and we find out more about these little gnomes. Are they going to keep life A day in the life of the Windswift? I don't think so. Anyway, thank you for joining us. Until next time, goodbye.